3 times, the world almost ended. Welcome to Your Dose of Wowness.
Every human alive today, all 8 billion of us, may descend from a population small enough to fit inside a couple of football stadiums. Not a metaphor for how special we are, a description of how close we came to not being here at all. 74,000 years ago, a mountain in Indonesia did something so violent it may have nearly ended the human story before it really started. This is the eruption that almost erased us. Modern humans have successfully colonized nearly every environment on the planet, yet our species possesses a shockingly low level of genetic diversity. Compared to chimpanzees, who occupy a much smaller geographic range, humans are remarkably similar to one another at a DNA level. Our genetic pool is shallow. In population genetics, this pattern indicates a bottleneck. It suggests a moment in our history where the breeding population crashed so severely that every human alive today descends from a tiny, restricted group of survivors. This low diversity is the biological scar of a near-extinction event. It forces us to look for a global catastrophe capable of nearly wiping out our species before the human story could truly begin. Toba stands as potentially the single largest explosive eruption of the last 2 million years. Mount Pinatubo, the 1991 event cooling the entire planet, represents only a fraction of this magnitude. On the Volcanic Explosivity Index, Toba is classified as a magnitude 8 supereruption, the highest rating possible. Pinatubo ejected roughly 10 cubic kilometers of material. Toba's total ejecta was over 1,000 times that volume. The blast radius was sterilized by pyroclastic flows, while suffocating ash reached across the ocean to the Arabian Sea and central India. The eruption was so violent the entire magma chamber collapsed. It left behind a sunken crater 100 kilometers long, a caldera now hidden beneath the surface of a massive lake. But the regional destruction was only the first stage of catastrophe. Millions of tons of sulfur dioxide and ash were injected directly into the stratosphere. At these altitudes, the eruption transitioned from a regional disaster into a global atmospheric event that threatened the survival of every early human population on Earth. The atmospheric disruption lasted far longer than the initial ashfall. Climate models suggest global temperatures remained unnaturally low for years. In the stratosphere, sulfur dioxide converts into sulfate aerosols. These particles form a global veil that reflects sunlight back into space, dimming the planet. Climatologists found physical evidence of this global dimming frozen in deep-time geological records. High concentrations of sulfate deposits found in Greenland and Antarctic ice cores align precisely with the timeline of the Toba eruption. These records informed early models of a volcanic winter, a period of extreme global cooling that would have stressed every ecosystem on the planet. This sustained cooling would have triggered a collapse in plant life and herbivore populations, creating a lethal period of mass famine for early humans. Scattered across Africa and Asia, the surviving populations of Homo sapiens were suddenly forced into a multi-year struggle against freezing darkness and the disappearance of their food sources.
We're 2 episodes into 10 near misses that shaped everything, and honestly, this one still keeps me up at night. Subscribe so you don't miss where this arc goes next, and drop a comment telling me whether you buy the bottleneck theory or the pushback against it. I want to know where you land. Geneticists found the scar this event left behind without ever setting foot near the volcano. They found it hiding inside our own DNA. Researchers Stanley Ambrose and Lynn Jord proposed that the climate models of the volcanic winter finally explained the human genetic bottleneck. They argued that the years of cold and famine caused a massive global die-off, narrowing the human species to a single thin thread of survivors. Under this theory, the total human population may have plummeted to just a few thousand individuals, a group small enough to be erased by a single bad season. This suggests that every person alive today exists only because that one specific, incredibly lucky population managed to endure the long winter. A growing number of scientists now argue that the Toba catastrophe theory is overstated. Much of the evidence for this pushback comes from a river valley in central India. Archaeologist Michael Petroglia conducted excavations in the Middle Son Valley,
looking for signs of how the local human population reacted to the eruption. Deep in the soil, his team found human stone tools resting directly beneath the thick, dark band of Toba's volcanic ash. Excavations revealed an unexpected continuity. Identical styles of stone tools appear in the soil layers directly above the ash line as well. If humans continued living in the same valleys, using the same tools after the ash fell, it suggests the eruption wasn't the extinction event it was once thought to be. Biologists call this alternative the serial founder effect. Our low genetic diversity might not be the result of a sudden volcanic doomsday, but rather the consequence of humans migrating out of Africa in small, successive waves. This leaves the scientific community divided. With modern modeling suggesting a milder winter and archaeology showing regional survival, the Toba catastrophe remains a fiercely debated mystery rather than a settled fact. Even if the eruption itself wasn't a global killer, the underlying truth remains. At some point in our deep past, Homo sapiens passed through a period of dangerously low population. This reality reinforces the central theme of our history. Our survival was never guaranteed. Natural history is as fragile and contingent as any human decision. We are the descendants of a chain of survivors that could have broken at any point along the way. Whether it was a single volcano or a slow demographic squeeze, we were almost erased. Whether it was one eruption or a slower squeeze over generations, we came from fewer people than you'd think, and somehow we made it. Next time, we jump forward almost 75,000 years to a different kind of near-miss. Not a volcano this time, but a mold sample that almost ran out before it could save the 20th century. That's day 113, the